What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Breathin Air podcast, where everyday action meets extraordinary mindset. Today, we have the founder of Stampede Network, holistic health coach. He is a doer of many things, Mr. Mason Kuhr. I mean, the most amazing name as well. So, Mason, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, brother? Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's funny we kind of crossed paths through, some mutual friends and contacts, but I could tell that we were going to align and mesh as soon as I started looking at your content. And I want to start 2-3 years ago, the Mason that you were then and now, and kind of that transformation and that road that you've been on so far.
Oh man, what a story. Man, 2-3 years ago, I was in a dark hole. I was in a very, very dark hole. I had no sense of identity. I was pleasure seeking all the time. And so, if you watch any of my content now, you obviously notice like spirituality is the biggest aspect of my life. That's what saved me from back then. I was drinking a handle a weekend. I was eating just like a pig. I was chasing hookup after a really bad time in my life because I'd gone to college to play football, right? And so my entire identity up till like my freshman year of college was basically this football player. I was an athlete. A lot of athletes go through this, but it's like I'd always identified as like Mason, the football player. Finally, one day in college, after there was just some disagreements with me, the coach, some value issues, culture stuff, it came to an end. Like it was a mutual, like, we're done with this. I don't want to talk to you again. In the moment, I was like, oh, I feel kind of free because I wasn't fully on board, at that point. I was like, I'm kind of losing it. But, that excitement was really short because I went back to my dorm at the time and I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like, now what? So it's like I had no idea what to do. And I had never really partied from that point. So I found myself in just the party scene, some Greek life for a little bit. It was just a nightmare. But then just trying to find things to do, just figuring out who I was. Because like I said, my entire life was this surface level ego attached identity. And so I kept looking for things to attach to on the outside over and over and over. And it's like, that's the habit we have as men and women, is like we attach to external things. We forget our internal spiritual perspective. And so I did that a lot. Looked for things to entertain myself. I got into drop shipping after I got signed up to an Alex Becker drop shipping course. But it taught me a lot. So I failed like 3 stores. And then I finally had one that got some success. Was sitting in class, in a marketing class, listening to my professor rant about making money when I was like making more than them right there. I was like, this is so stupid. Why am I here right now? So that was just like a little paradigm shift for me. But eventually, that was kind of like bringing me back to life because I still didn't know who I was. I'd also went through a really bad breakup. So that was like the double whammy, right? So it's like football, identity, breakup, boom. Everything from the past is just gone. And so that drop shipping thing kind of helped me figure out what I wanted to do a little bit. But then I got banned off of Facebook ads. That's a whole nother story. But I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what to do for like 2 years. And I was just sitting. It's really, I don't even like thinking about it because I was just sitting in a room for probably like a year and a half, 2 years, thinking about what I should do and just self-loathing. Like nothing really happened. And that 2 years was just like a blink because it was the same thing over and over and over. And it was one of those things where you think about it and you realize like, man, I was having some thoughts that really, they're kind of scary. Like I don't want anyone else to think this way. And so I was in this dark place just for so long. I started seeking, these answers outside of myself again. But then I realized like there was nothing outside of me when I was doing all this pleasure seeking stuff. And so I finally went inwards. I started asking, what's my purpose? And then finally, there was just one day after, going down like the whole esoteric spirituality route and all that stuff, I finally looked in the mirror and I was like, man, I just need to make a change because I'm overweight now. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I don't like who I am. I don't have any friends. And so it was like at that moment too, I realized the only thing I could do was go forward because I didn't really have anything. And so that's what I chose to do. And I went down, I had a couple friends, but it was whatever. But yeah, I went down the self-improvement journey and in about 8 weeks made just this psycho transformation because I knew fitness. That's all I really knew. And so I did that, ended up making this massive transformation. Some kid in the gym told me that I looked like I should be an influencer on TikTok. So it's like, all right, I'll take your word for it. And then he said, I can record you if you want. I was like, sure. Yeah, I was like, sure. I'll take a camera, man. And what's what's funny about that is, in that period of being lost, the thing that really, it wasn't even lost looking back because I was just trying so many different things that would propel me to now. But there was this one class I did take in college. It was a theater class because I had a horrible public speaking fear. Like, dude, it was so bad. I would black out of anxiety. It was bad. And so I was like, I need to get rid of this. And I took that class and I ended up loving it after, right? When I overcame this fear. And so when this kid said you should get on TikTok, in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, dude, this is for sure the next step. Like, I need to really put myself out there. Just started growing that up. I was so bad at the beginning, dude, on camera. It's horrible, but it's a muscle like everything. And eventually just kind of relaxed into it, opened up. And one day I said an opinion, and the video with my opinion got the most views. So I was like, okay, maybe people want to hear me for what I actually have to say. And so that was just kind of like the paradigm shift for me. I stopped doing all like the viral trends and all that crap and just doubled down on me. But yeah, I went down this whole journey after that. We could go down the whole story if you want.
Yeah, no, I think a good starting point, because what I hear echoing throughout that too is that you had the awareness that you needed to change, that you wanted to change, and then you invested in yourself, through the courses, through the gym, through those things. And it's interesting, the gym being one of the first pillars for you and that mindset shift. So now that you're out of that and you've created, not only this new identity for yourself, how important is your physical fitness, and, where do you place that on your priority list in terms of overall health?
Health is number one, right? Because if we don't have health, what's the point? You die. There's nothing else more important than that. And so I've actually created, going through this whole journey, which we can get into, but I have like a 5-step purpose formula that anyone can use to get out of a rut, fix their life, and figure out what they're here to do. And it starts with fitness, right? Because we can look at universal laws and go into the esoteric knowledge and all that stuff. But if we do dive into that, reading books like the Kabbalion and checking out like Hermetica, and even in the Bible, there's this underlying law of vibration, right? Which is that we vibrate on a cellular atomic level, everything. And so the more we raise our vibration, the more we start to align with a reality that we want, because the reality we want is a higher vibration than the one we're at. And fitness is the best way to do that, because we also use another metaphysical law, which is the law of correspondence, as above, so below, saying that we are the universe and the universe is us. And so if we increase our vibration, if we move more, right, then we're increasing our vibration. And that's why fitness is the way to do so. So you get your fitness unlock, and you go to nutrition, and that unlocks a clear mind. When you have a clear mind, you can start reprogramming yourself. Once you understand how the mind works through that reprogramming, you can really dive even more into the meditation, because you're starting to gain control of it, right? And then when you have that awareness, then you can start to pick up on what energizes you. And that's what's going to take you into the self-transcendence and purpose route on the outside. So there's self-actualization, which is becoming the most clear version of yourself. And then there's self-transcendence, which is where you start doing the things on the outside and you eventually give it to the world. So steps 4 and 5 of that are figure out what energizes you, right? And there's different layers to purpose. Like right now it could be, finance. So what is something that energizes you? Like a skill, could be writing, could be speaking, could be making videos, whatever it is, that's your vehicle. But then align that with what's currently energizing you. So maybe it's, making money and becoming financially free. For me, right, I understood making content and how to build an e-commerce brand. And at the time, I was also trying to become financially free. So that was my vehicle. And so that's step 4. But then step 5 is how do you take that and give it to the world, right? And so that's where I created a brand that's more of a movement, and I can use it to help people go down the same path that I went down, this journey of self-actualization. So that at the end, like the whole point of this is to create an army of people who are able to create their reality. That's really like this whole purpose formula.
Bars, by the way, incredible. You really eloquently kind of painted the picture, because we talk about self-actualization, awareness, but the transcendence piece, I think, is even more important and, to that next step, because you could be self-aware, but almost get caught in a spiral. All these things that we're, trying to utilize as self-help tools, and it can almost have the adverse effect if you don't have and, take that step to the self-transcendence and aligning that with what you actually want to do in life, what you actually want to accomplish, how you actually want to live. And if you get stuck in that middle ground of like, I'm aware of everything everything. I'm aware of my health. I'm aware of things that maybe I was blind to before, but you're not actually, putting that into momentum towards where you actually see yourself in the future, then I feel like it can be almost that adverse effect. Have you felt that before?
I will go down this whole tangent. So there's a difference between self-improvement and self-development. All right. So self-improvement it's always a mindset shift, because at the end of the day, the universe is mental, right? That's just number one. And so everything in your life is starting in the mind. But basically self-improvement, right? If you listen to that word, you're improving something. You're telling yourself that there's something there that's not enough. It's coming from a place of lack and scarcity. And so you keep feeding this thing, it just never ends. And I've gone that route too. Versus if you start taking this approach of self-development, what is development? Well, you're creating something for a reason. Like you're creating it for a purpose. So you're developing yourself into someone who can do something. And the route of anything we do in our life is called be, do, have. And this is like it's a whole biblical thing, right? And so you have to be someone before you do something, before you have something. And then that feeds back into your being, because it's proof that it's there. And so basically, you want to start developing yourself for some reason. And what is that reason? Well, there's 3 aspects to fulfillment as a man or woman. And that is creation, connection, and contribution. And as soon as you get all that, you will become fulfilled. And ideally, if you can create something that has connection and contribution, and with it, that's where true fulfillment comes from. And so that's like what I'm trying to do with this, right? And that's the transcendence aspect, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all chasing anyway. That's why people go out and they drink or party or chase hookups and all this stuff, is they're trying to transcend themselves. They're trying to get out of this little ego thing, and they want to expand their soul to something outside of them, right? And so that's what we're all chasing. And if you can put that energy into a creation that makes people's lives better, I promise you, that is it's going to change everything in your life. Everything. And it's why you're doing this podcast,
I think now more than ever too, I've heard you say, well, there's a war on consciousness, right? And there really is a war on our consciousness. There really is a war on, those morals, those values, those, standings that, we're firm in. And, I think the media and everything else around us portrays a quite different viewpoint of success and what we should be chasing. So for those listening now that are like, wow, this is profound. How do I start? What are some of the earlier stages for you, and maybe some practical tips for the listeners to kind of start taking steps towards that path?
You need to first take care of you, right? You just need to get yourself in check. If you're not physically fit, or, just physically at least clear, cutting out all the crap, get rid of nutrition and fitness are number one. That's it. Plain and simple. Because your body is an extension of your subconscious mind. And if you want to get into the science, right, we have our solar plexus down here in the gut, which is where we get our gut feelings. That's 95% of our thinking. And so if you have a polluted gut, you're polluting 95% of your thinking, right? And so that connects to your brain through the vagus nerve, which is where our other 5% of conscious thinking is. And so if you want to think clear, if you want to make the right decisions and know what you're actually needing to do, fix your diet and fix your body. It's that simple. That'll take you into the mind. And once you learn how to have clarity and witness your mind instead of it being polluted all the time, that's where anxiety and depression comes from, and not being in the sunlight too. But fix that up. Just become a man or a woman. It's that simple. Go back to the natural way of living and start from there. That's the best thing you can do for anything.
We hear a lot about, you should eat this, you shouldn't eat that. There's a lot of voices coming at us, especially in this health and wellness space. For you, what has worked for you, and what are some of the staples for your diet and what you are eating to protect that gut?
Yeah. So you see, there's so many people say, oh, be vegan, be carnivore. And honestly, it comes down to what is energizing you, what is helping increase your vitality. So for me, I call my diet, I made it up. It's called the Mount Olympus diet, but you can also call it a qualitarian diet. So I focus on the quality of the foods I eat, and it's really just experimenting what works for you. So it's mostly for me, I'd say 65, 70% proteins, all grass-fed, pasture-raised, eggs, red meat, chicken, fish, if you can get it really pure wild caught. But I also have a lot of fruit. I'll do some sourdough, sweet potatoes. I get most of my carbs from the fruits, some occasional veggies, but it's really just hearing your body, right? And that's the whole point, is it's this feedback loop. So you want to start cutting things out out and see how it makes you feel internally and mentally. And then you just keep adjusting over and over until you get something that works for you, because it's different for everybody, right? If we go back like thousands of years, people were living in different areas with different foods. There is no one diet that fixes everything, but there is one diet for you that will help you become the best version of yourself. And that comes from experimenting like everything. Best thing you can do though for everybody is cut out the synthetic crap. Like get rid of the seed oils, get rid of the added sugars, all that stuff. Anything that is not real. So cut out anything not processed or completely processed.
Single ingredient, the less ingredients, the better. Like that's what I do. Single ingredient foods. It's a sweet potato. It's a steak. It's chicken. It's an egg. And obviously I love the qualitarian diet, right? It's just as important, in terms of the quality. You could say, oh, I'm going to hit my macros here and eat shit food. But at the same time, you're going to have brain fog. You're not going to feel as good. Your energy is going to be low. Your libido is going to be low. Your hormones aren't going to be balanced. So if we're talking about actually optimizing, that's definitely the route to go.
My bad. Veganism, just don't do veganism. Like, if you're a vegan right now, just stop, knock it off. Like, here's the deal: is you're not getting enough of the cholesterol, B vitamins, none of that stuff. Nobody, just don't go vegan. Like, I know so many ex-vegans that just get off of it. Don't do that. That's all I got to say there.
Yeah, we talk about like transformations from coaching and stuff and training, but I've seen some pretty wild transformation photos when it comes from people who have been vegan and then went back to eating meat or eating quality proteins, animal proteins and animal fat. It's interesting. I actually met a girl who had diagnosed bipolar disease along with other autoimmune issues and decided to try carnivore. And by eating the animal fat and carnivore and, really introducing that into her diet, a lot, if not all, of the bipolar episodes went away. The autoimmune disease went away. Like, it was like crazy transformation. I've heard her talk about it before. I need to have her on the podcast. Now I'm thinking about it, but hearing stories like that, it's like, wow, that's insane.
Yeah, dude, I'd have to look into, I don't know what causes bipolar. That's something I haven't really looked into, but probably going to be easy to connect the dots once I see that.
So you've, created Stampede Network, and we kind of talked a little bit earlier about how it all ties together for you. And I want to talk about what you're doing now with not only leveraging Amazon, but also, the product itself and the Awaken pre-workout. I think a lot of people that are in this space have seen, a lot of pre-workouts. We had the old C4 back in the day and a lot of other toxic pre-workouts back in the day, and just the stuff that we put in our body in general. That industry isn't necessarily FDA regulated a lot of the times. And so a lot of the things that are quote unquote healthy for us end up having opposite effects that we want in the long run. So tell us a little bit about the product and about your journey there in that e-com space so far.
Yeah. So Awakened, I basically saw the same issue where every product you eat it's just gross. It's made in the lab. It's not real. Has artificial ingredients, sucralose, acesulfame, potassium, artificial flavors, all types of crap. And it's messing up your gut microbiome, all this stuff. And just, it doesn't need to be eaten. And so I was like, that's what the whole brand is built off of, is making this holistic wellness and natural way of living mainstream. But each product that we have is designed for multiple purposes, right? So this has bee pollen in it, which helps your immunity, vitality, overall energy, recovery. Has beetroot, which is for blood flow, pump, right? So that's the fitness aspects of it, more energy aspects to it, heart health. It's got Tonga Ali, so helps with hormone health, theobromine, alpha GPC, all types of stuff for focus. This thing is loaded. Here, I can read it right here. So here's everything, our whole list. Beetroot, alpha GPC, bee pollen, mucuna, which helps your dopamine restore, as well as helps your central nervous system recover. We got decaffeine mallet, right? So most of them are just loaded with pure caffeine. And for those of you who don't know how caffeine actually works, when we wake up in the morning, we have what is called adenosine, which is it's like our tired neurotransmitter, basically. And so caffeine comes in like a shield and it blocks it off, right? And so your brain's not getting the signal that you're tired. So it's not actually waking you up. It's just saying that you're not tired. And it also spikes your cortisol. And so eventually when that caffeine wakes up or, clears out, that's when you have your crash, because this adenosine comes flying in. With decaffeine mallet, it's more of an extended release curve and it's longer. So it's smoother, has more of it's just smooth.
You're not going to be like cracked out schizo at the gym, like,
We added a tiny bit of natural caffeine on top just so you do feel it even more, but nothing to make you crackhead. And then we got some rhodiola in there, which is like an energizing version of ashwagandha. So that's some good stuff. And then we also added magnesium, Himalayan pink salt, and sodium citrate or potassium citrate. So yeah, it's just loaded up with stuff. But basically the whole thing is behind this mantra I created. It's called net, neutral, or positive. And so our stuff will either do nothing for you or make your life better, but it will not make your life worse, right? And so we want to take this whole new approach. We're not going to stand here and tell someone like, oh, this is the best, it's going to cure all your problems. Like we see that so much in the industry, but no one actually looks at what these things are actually doing or is being like real and transparent with it. And so I'll be like, listen, it may not help you. That's fine, but it won't make your life worse. And if it does do something for you, it's going to make it like 10 times better. So we can approach this from a place of like truth and honesty where we don't have to hide anything. And that's really like this whole new approach I want to make mainstream.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I just hearing all the ingredients, I'm excited to try it because it does sound smooth and it does sound amazing, honestly. You have to really sift through a lot of the BS in the market today. And so it is good to see actual knowledgeable, health experienced individuals that are living that lifestyle, continuing to make products that, will help others, like you said. I don't think there'll be any neutrals. We'll all be good. We'll all be good off of it. But I want to talk about, the idea of giving ourselves permission to achieve things or, be savage, as I've heard you say before. So I want to understand, because I think this is important for a lot of people in getting over some of these hurdles and these roadblocks, especially mentally, and, chasing and aligning with what you really were meant to do. You really do have to give yourself permission, to fail, to try new things, to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable in many ways, and to really to break yourself down. And you have to understand that that's part of the process. But what does that mean to you to give yourself permission?
So at the end of the day, our innate self is, we're like onions, right? So we have all these different layers and all these labels and all these ideas and beliefs and all these things just stacked up. And after a while, it's like, God, I'm holding so much over my head right now. And so when you can finally cut that out, like, what you need to do, right? If you gave yourself permission to sit there and quiet just for 5 minutes, which is the biggest issue that most people don't do. If you could just sit there and truly allow yourself to think about what you want to do at a deep level and push away the fear attached to it, you would know, right? And so life isn't really about creating as much as it is about uncovering what's already there, right? So we want to take all these labels off the top, and you have to tell yourself like, man, it's okay for me to want to do this. And it's okay for me to be a savage and to pursue it. And just like life's this whole game of surrender at the end of the day. Think, and we have this connotation of surrender is like, I hold up the white flag and now I'm weak and a loser. And it's like, no, you surrender to what you actually want. You allow yourself to pursue it. And it comes from this decision to commit to that choice and just going all in, like just pull the trigger and shoot it. Like every time we encounter a fear, you can think about it. There's not a single time that you felt bad after, ever. Every time you encounter a fear, every time you do that thing you're avoiding and just surrender to the fact that you want it or want to go into it, it always gets better after every single time. So there's no easier way to say it than you just have to allow yourself. And the best thing you can do for that, I would say, is just having a higher power in your life. That's really what changed mine, is believing in some faith, some sort of faith that something is going to work out. Because if you don't have anything to look forward to or any belief that something is there holding you, or pushing you forward, then you won't do it, right? And so for me, through meditation and all types of stuff, I've encountered God in my own life, right? And so I know for a fact that there is a creator, right? And so that's what allows me to keep going forward, because like even me talking about this stuff, sometimes I look in the mirror too and I'm like, oh my God, dude, I can't believe this is in front of me. There's anxieties, there's fears. And it's like, as a man or a woman, that's what you feel. But if you can just feel it and accept it's there and just keep moving forward, that's what separates you, right? And so even start small if you need to. You can make these things in front of you look a lot less scary if you just break it down to one simple thing at a time. We have these massive visions of what we think to do, and it's like, Okay, well, what if I just sat down for 10 minutes and started? That's it, right? And just that's all it's focused on. That makes it a lot less scary. So just kind of break those things down.
Yeah, the micro daily habits that lead to the macro wins. I mean, that's what it is all about. And being able to enjoy that process, because I think sometimes we get so far ahead of, here's this goal that I put, a crown on and that I'm working towards. And every single day, this is in my head. Well, that's all fine and well. And you need to envision the success that you want to have. The real magic is in the now and what we're doing every single day. And so why miss out on that? Because, you may reach that carrot a year from now, a month from now, 10 years from now, but every single day that we're, on this earth, chasing that or, attracting that more. So it's a blessing. Like that's really the beauty of it all at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if you're building a house, you don't get there unless you just look at the next brick, right? Just which brick's in front of you, right? And that's all you can do. You can't, it's not going to magically just come together, right? And so just one day at a time, really.
Yeah, I want to go a little esoteric here and because I think it's really powerful when you look at history, when you look at biology, when you look at neuroscience, when you look at a lot of these things that are maybe a level deeper than most people ever go. It opens up a whole different perspective on how the mind, the body, and everything else, the spirit ties in together. So you recently had a post around, sacred secretion or this Christ oil, right? And I want to understand, what your experience has been around that topic and a little bit about, how other people can access that or, utilize it and even know about it if they don't even know what I'm talking about right now.
We're giving the people what they want right now. In terms of that, I would basically just, because I can explain it all day and it's just not going to resonate with a lot of people yet, it's something you have to experience. So I would say, look at everything in spiritual texts and all this stuff is basically a metaphor for something that's happening inside of you, right? Because our whole goal as man or woman, right? And I keep saying man or woman. I don't say person, I don't say human. I could go into like a whole different tangent about that, right? But our goal as men and women are to step into this image of God, right? Because that's how we were created. And so we're here to become and wake up to our full potential of who we can be while we're alive, right? And so how do you do that? Well, you must transform. And so all these spiritual texts are texts of transformation, right? Because the only way to truly know God is to open yourself up to receiving God, right? And eventually get to a point where you realize like God is living through us. The Creator is living through us. And so just look at spiritual texts like the Bible, the Kabbalion, all sorts of things as these keys to self-transformation, right? And so there's also a trap you could get into where it's like you get a spiritual ego, right? And it becomes about like self-worship and all that stuff. And it's not about that at all. You still keep your mind on like the Creator and all that stuff. But, for a greater purpose, it's like, what can you give instead of like, how can I attract everything into my life and do all this stuff for me? It's like, you want to become a person who can give to the world and to others because that's the whole point of why we're here. And so, we got like the sacred secretion stuff. Dude, that's so esoteric. But
hey, fluoride in the tap water too.
Yeah, basically like our brain releases this sacred secretion called the Christ oil. It's called the colostrum oil, right? And it goes down our spine, down the chimney, right? Where do you think Christmas is coming from, right? And so it collects down here in our plexus, our sacral plexus, and then eventually goes back up our spine, Jacob's ladder, and it's resurrected and crucified. And basically to allow this to happen is to follow the guidelines of the Bible. And so you read the Bible, basically what this is telling you to do is, to get to know God, like this is happening subconsciously. Like whether people know it or not, when they follow the Bible, when they live a sinless life, as much as you consciously can, this happens biologically as a byproduct, right? And so this thing goes up to our land of milk and honey, which is, you got the pituitary gland and like all this crazy stuff, like DMT eventually comes out. It's wild, but if you follow the Bible as a book to live by, this happens to you at a biological level, and it just helps you wake up as an individual, as a man or a woman. And you step into this whole new role. And so it's like, that's why having control of your temptations and not trying to be a pleasure seeker, controlling your wrath, your gluttony. We can go into all these sins, your lust. Like every time you hook up with someone randomly, you're expelling it. Every time you overeat and you destroy your gut, this thing cannot survive. Every time you go into wrath, you break it down with all these like wrathful vibrations in your body. And so it's like you use these texts to become and transform into a man or woman of God. It's really profound, dude. I'm surprised no one's really talked about it before. I don't know how I found myself in this rabbit hole, but
no, this is what we wanted. We're definitely going where we want. You talked about, controlling some of our desires. We've talked a little bit about hookup culture. And I think, something that's been talked about more and is in older text as well. I mean, you look at Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and we talk about this concept of sexual transmutation. And I think anybody that has had a sexual urge can understand how powerful that is, right? So what is this idea of sexual transmutation, and how can we possibly channel some of these strong urges and, innate, normal biological things and channel it towards more productive activities that will help move our life in the right direction?
So this radically changed my life. I made a full YouTube video on it too for anyone that wants to watch it. But basically, every time you get this urge, sexual energy is just the energy of creation, right? And so every time we get this urge and expel it immediately, you don't create to your full ability anymore. And there's so many dudes just sit there, just doing all their stuff, right? Every single day. And yeah, you're just fapping away. Like you're getting rid of everything. If you can just abstain from that, right? From expelling this creation life force. And instead, every time you get that urge, transmute the urge into something new, you can radically change your life. I went 181 days, dude. Completely, absolutely everything. I changed my life so much. I changed my body, started building my business up, changed everything in my life. And here's how you do it. This is some Zen shit we're about to do. All right. So every time you get that urge, what I want you to do, instead of like thinking that you have to go feed the urge, do 20 air squats, do 30 air squats, do 30 push-ups, right? And so what you're going to do is you're going to start linking this feeling of turn on into an act of creation. And so what's happening at this neurological level is you're literally rewiring your brain and making a connection of, oh, I get turned on by creating something. And so you can hack your entire biology to, this is why Arnold says, when I lift weights, I feel like I'm coming, right? And so that's what he's doing. And you just take one thing and you turn it into something else. And so there was a point I was getting dude, it sounds weird, but I was just getting turned on by working out. Like I just wanted to keep going, like over. And you will not, like you just will become successful. Your body does not allow you to stop because you're getting so much dopamine from the work itself. And so I was like, man, if I can do this with my body, and that's when I made this crazy transformation. I was waking up every day. I was like, oh, let's go, bro. I felt primal. Felt amazing. I feel like that now because I still practice this. But, there's a point too where I was like, man, if I can do this with my body, I can do this with my business. And so every time I would get that like turn on feeling in a workout, what I'd do is I'd start thinking about business success, right? I'd start thinking about these wins in business and all this stuff. And it was weird. Like I'd get all this pleasure from working out and I'd be thinking about business next. And so, what happens is eventually my brain gets this dopamine rush and this pleasurable feeling from thinking about business success. So I was like, all right, now I got to do it because it's turned me on a little bit, right? And so you can use it to just loop one into the other. And, even in sex, right? If you do decide to consciously do it, don't tell your partner this, but if you want some business success, you can think about a business win or like visualize your bank account going up as you release, you'll link the dopamine to it.
Oh Oh man, that's next level.
It's next level, dude. It's a hack.
But honestly, I've actually never heard it explained that way in terms of correlating the feeling of being turned on or the feeling of that sexual energy with the specific act that you want to be successful in, like the workout, or it's that whole process of associating dopamine with the process, right? And that's what all the greats do. But to be able to take that primal level and that primal nature and one of the most strongest, energies that we have available to us, some have more of it available than others, but to be able to make that correlation, I mean, it is a hack. It is a biohack. I think it's just, hacking your biology and I love saying like using your biology and not letting it use you, because everybody else is trying to use your biology against you, your brain against you, how we're hardwired as humans to get you to waste your life and do what they want you to do, as opposed to being able to turn the table and do exactly the opposite, using the same tools that are God-given.
Right. It's biological alchemy. We're all innate alchemists, and you can just take these things because hormones are the most powerful things in our body. They're like these spiritual messengers of the body. They give us power. They give us clear thinking. They give us a reward system, everything. And so if you can learn how to use these natural processes in your favor, you can hack your entire reality. And that's why I push so much on this fitness and nutrition stuff, because it's like you need to clear up your body, which will allow you to now create the reality that you're meant to create, because you can learn how to hack yourself, and you're at the cause of everything that happens in your life. So it's like, if you don't, you're not going to do anything anyway.
Damn. Hope y'all are taking notes. I just wrote down biological alchemy because I love that. And I think it's going to be the name of this episode, Biological Alchemy. Awaken the beast within. It's moments like these too, where I feel like when you are in that sense of alignment, things kind of fall into place the way that they're supposed to. We just met each other and we're capable of having a conversation like this that is mind-blowing in a lot of ways and is energy feeding, right? And that's when you talk about that second level of transcendence. For me, that's how I'm always reminded, no matter how shitty of a day I'm having or what else is going on in my life, when I get on with someone like yourself on the show, it is feeding me, energizing me, and everybody else that's on the other line, right? And the other end of this conversation. And so it is a great feeling to be able to know that, you're in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. And that's what I hope everybody can accomplish and feel. That is the whole point of this, is so that you can feel the exact same way.
Right. And dude, it comes back to intent and everything. And so it's like, you come on this with the intent to give value, have a good time with it, all this stuff. And so it's this clear, like pure intent, right? And so what we give out to the world by, again, this law of correspondence, I'm telling you, every single person listening to this, you need to study the universal laws, because they rule your life whether you want them to or not. So you can argue with them, but you're wrong. That's just the facts. But what we give out, we get back, right? And so you're coming in with this intent of giving and creating value and having this good time. And so what that does is it attracts people. You also have the law of vibration under it. You attract people at that same resonance. That's why you resonate with people, right? And so you start attracting the people meant for you. So it's like, if you have people in your life that you don't like, look at yourself. You're the problem.
Man, Mason, where can everybody find you? Where can they check out Stampede Network, the pre-workout, all your content? Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so you can check me out everywhere at Mason Kuhr, Kuhr, at Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. This is the content year. My brand is thestampedenetwork.com. Got a new site coming too. It's going to look nice and clean. About to launch the Awaken pre-workout on Amazon. If you want to get on the early launch list, go through my link in bio on all my socials. Doesn't matter where. But yeah, that's where you can catch me. And if you have any questions about purpose or any of these things, shoot me a DM. I'm very active with it, and I like to interact with all you guys.
Mason, what is your definition of success?
Waking up every single day, tapped in and aligned to what I see myself as at a soul level, right? So if I can wake up every day just energized by what I do, whether I'm having a good or bad day, I still continue to do it. That's success to me.
Man, thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been a pleasure. I'm sure we'll keep in touch. much. But yeah, everybody go check out Mason. Go check out what he is continuing to create, not only for your body, but for your mind as well. And go give him a follow. Let him know what you thought of the show today. As always, your price of admission, if you enjoyed the show today, share it with someone who you think could get value from it. And secondly, put it into action, whether it's something I said or Mason said, put it into action in your daily life so that you can reap the benefits. Thank you for joining another episode of the Breathin Air podcast. And Mason Squared over here is going to catch y'all later.
That's right. Peace.